My name's Emily Hamilton. I'm the founding co-chair of QuinsPride, the world's first LGBTQ+ supporters association in rugby. I'm a proud trans woman and I've been part of the rugby family for nearly 40 years, as a player, club administrator and latterly as a fan. In 2020, with a group of friends from the LGBT community, I set up QuinsPride to ensure that when we say rugby is a sport for all, that we really mean it. Being trans in the UK today is hard. We're facing concerted attacks on our rights and our existence. Our access to healthcare is blocked and delayed. Our rights to live openly as ourselves have been reduced to a convenient political football for those who should be concentrating on bigger issues. We face a hostility whipped up by a media which is currently running more than 10 stories a week about us, and a small, noisy but well and obliquely funded group of pressure groups trying to turn back progress in inclusion and make the ability of trans people to enjoy an ordinary life impossible. Hate crime against the trans community is multiplying at an alarming rate. In 2020 to 2021, 2,630 hate crimes against transgender people were recorded by the police, an increase of 16% on the previous year and a quadrupling of crimes since 2017. This number is severely underreported because we know, according to the National LGBT Survey, that 88% of transgender people did not report the most serious types of incident. I recognise that because I've suffered 4 serious hate crimes in my 3 years of being out. For the benefit of the RFU Council, 2 of those happened in the Middlesex County area, 1 in Wiltshire and 1 in Northamptonshire. Our game has always prided itself in being inclusive. We've all been thrilled to see the growth of the women's game. From a Harlequins perspective, to win the double in 2020 to 2021 was one of the highlights of my time as a supporter. But now that claim of inclusion and the rugby family is under threat. The RFU Council is voting on Friday to potentially place a blanket ban on trans women from playing our amazing sport. They're not doing this because there have been safety incidents in the many years there have been trans inclusive, nor are they reacting to unfairness and the many trans women queuing up to join the Red Roses team. Because in all the years we have been inclusive, no trans women have won a cap or played at the professional level. In fact, trans people make up less than 1% of the population, and there are only 7 registered players in England. There is no credible scientific evidence of advantage, largely because those studies have simply not been undertaken in any meaningful way. Reports of the differences between cisgender men and women, cisgender simply means not trans, are used as an analogue. Where we have known for at least 20 years that the suppression of testosterone has a radical impact on the strength and of endurance in trans women, I can talk about that with some confidence. I'm one of them. The reality of hormone replacement therapy is that with the larger frame that I just can't deny having, is now powered by a massively smaller musculature, to the extent that tasks I was able to accomplish 3 years ago, undoing the wheel nuts on my car for example, are now just completely impossible. You'll have seen some of the deeply emotional pleas of some of that small number of trans women players this week, begging you to allow them to carry on being mediocre, being social players, and being part of the family that is created when 15 people of all body shapes and sizes come together to play our sport. My playing days are long over, but I remember that sense of family. As a trans person, we know that losing family can sometimes be part of what happens when we transition. It hurts. And it hurts even when that family is the rugby one. To suggest that we are still welcome in some other capacity is like telling us we're not good enough to sit at the table with the family, but we're okay to do the washing up. As I said earlier, this move is part of a wide-based and constant attack on our community. It's tiring and it's frightening. Every organisation that misrepresents science or fails to see that trans exclusion is not the default position, despite the pressures from hostile media, adds to that atmosphere of fear and emboldens bigotry in real life. This decision, whichever way it now goes, has opened me and the trans community to a significant amount of abuse. As a visible and vocal trans woman in the rugby community, I spent much of last weekend blocking, deleting, and reporting a tirade of abuse on social media, including calls for me to kill myself. I've tried that twice in my life, and I don't intend to go back there. Banning trans people in a blanket way sends a signal that we are less, that we are not worthy of enjoying a sport and all the physical and mental benefits that that gives. It sends a signal to those who harbour those bigotries that they are free to express them openly, making us all less safe. And finally, a blanket ban will not just harm the trans community. We have seen this elsewhere, that when trans women are banned from spaces, that cisgender women who do not meet the aesthetic standards of others have also suffered. Is the RFU ready for the malicious reports of a trans player on a team who turns out to be cisgender but broad-shouldered? Or is a cisgender woman with polycystic ovaries who've got facial and body hair growth as a result? The policy is wrong. I implore the members of the council, some of whom I've met, some of whom I would call my friends, to reject this exclusion, maintain the status quo, which has not hurt anyone in any way for many, many years.